Hey, what's up? How's it going? Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing my reading survey for the year of 2021. And this is a video that I have made for the past couple of years. It's just a really fun way for me to wrap up the year and wrap up all the books that I read. It has like a lot of really great questions in this tag. It's kind of like a superlatives tag for the year, like the book that made you cry the most, laugh the most, and the book that was like the longest book you read this year, and just like a bunch of fun superlatives kind of stats for the end of the year. So I figured I would do it again this year. I just really enjoy making these videos and I hope you enjoy them as well. So question number one is, how many books did you read this year? This one is a little tricky to answer because it's not exactly like, I'm not done with my reading for the year just yet because I am filming this on the 20th, and so I still do have, a good 10 days left of reading or so, but as of right now I believe I'm somewhere around like 163 to 165, which is just insane because I don't think I've ever read more than 150 books in one year, and this year I've just been reading so much, so that's amazing. Love that for me, but wow, that's a lot of books. The next question is, what was your most read genre from this year? And almost every year, I just know it's probably gonna be thrillers, and this year I actually just did my stats page. You will see this stats video at the very end of the year. Like, I love to do my stats. I kind of just do this. I take all the information from my Goodreads and then I just like put it all into this so I can actually see what my most read genre was, and it was thrillers by far, by like a lot. And it's crazy though because horror books were actually my second most read genre this year, which is a new thing for me, because last year is the year that I first really got into horror. It's exciting, I was wondering if I was going to be able to read more horror this year than thrillers, but nope, thrillers still took the cake. Alright, the next question is, what was the longest and the shortest book that you read this year? The longest was without a doubt The Stand by Stephen King. I feel so accomplished that I finally read this book this year because it's about 1,200 pages, and it is tied for the longest book that I've ever read. The other one is It by Stephen King. And the shortest book I read this year was actually Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. This one on Goodreads is 102 pages long. The next question says, what was your favorite book that was published in the year of 2021? This was so hard because, a lot of the books that made it into like my top 15 of the year were published in 2021, so it's like really hard to just pick one book that was published this year that's my favorite, but here are a few. I would say Project Hail Mary is one of my favorite books published this year, same with Finlay Donovan, and same with like The Push and The Four Winds. I have like a whole stack of books that could fit this answer. But the next question is your favorite debut book that was published this year. And so this is like for a debut author, like somebody who's never published a book before this one, what was the fave this year? And I've got to go with either The Push or In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, because both of these are some of the best books that I've read this year, and I cannot believe that these are debut books. Like, I will definitely be reading every single thing these authors publish in the future because holy crap, I'm obsessed with their writing. And the next question is your favorite book that was not published in 2021 but that you read for the first time in 2021. And I love this question because The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon made it into my top 5 favorite books of this year, but this one was not published this year. I think it was actually published in like 2014 or maybe even earlier than that. But this book is phenomenal and it's definitely one of my top faves. But I would also add Stolen Tongues was another one that I really enjoyed that I read this year that was not published this year. I believe this one was also published a couple years ago now. So yeah, both of these books, they're both horror novels and they were both phenomenal. The next question is a book that lived up to the hype. So for this I have two answers. The first one is going to be The Love Hypothesis. I actually read this book a few months after it came out, and by then I was hearing so much hype about it, so I was getting kind of nervous that I wasn't gonna like it very much, but this book definitely lived up to that hype. Like, this was so freaking cute, and I honestly want to reread this one eventually because adorable. And then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I think this is definitely one that lives up to the hype. This is probably like one of the most hyped books ever on the internet, because Agatha Christie is so talked about, and I'm so glad that I finally read one of her books. This one definitely lived up to the hype for me. Like, I just thought it was really great. There was a really great plot twist at the end that I didn't see coming, and I just had a whole lot of fun with it. And the next question is a book that did not live up to the hype, and for me, I would have to say The Snowman. This is a book that I just kind of expected more from because this is a book that's talked about so often on the internet, but maybe, it might have just been because of me, because I'm not a huge like detective reader in my thrillers. Like, I don't love that. I mean, I would have said Survive the Night did not live up to the hype, but to be fair, this book isn't getting that much hype anyways. Ooh. burn. Sorry, I'm so annoying. Okay, next question. A book that felt like the biggest accomplishment. Let me tell you, there's nothing more satisfying than finishing a 1,200 page book. Like, nothing gives you a bigger sense of like accomplishment and satisfaction than finishing this beast of a novel. This is like bigger than a Bible, okay? And I read it. I read it in 10 days. I gave myself a goal and I did it. But I will say, And Then There Were None did also feel like an accomplishment just because I've had this book on my TBR for literally years, and because I tried to read this one before and I ended up DNFing it and I just wasn't sure if it was going to be my thing. So I'm so glad that I decided to actually push through, check out the audiobook, and just get into it, you know? I'm glad that I gave it the time because it was actually really good and really amazing. Next question is your favorite character that you read this year. I actually have favorite characters that are a part of duos because Finlay Donovan is one of my favorite characters of this year, but also all of the characters in this book and the duo that Finlay is like in this book is one of my favorite duos that I've ever read about. And speaking of duos, Ike and Buddy from Razorblade Tears, they're also some of my favorite characters that I read this year, and these characters are all just gonna stay with me for so long. Like, I just love them so much, and I love the fact that with Finlay we're getting you know, a series because I love these characters so much, so I'm so excited to read more about these characters next year. And then the next question is your least favorite character that you read about this year, and you know, I think this goes without saying, it's gotta be my girl Charlie from Survive the Night. She honestly made me want to throw this book against the wall, and that's a rare feeling for me. So the next question is the most shocking book or shocking moment from a book that you read this year. I've gotta say, the very end of The Push was one of the most like shocking moments for me this year. Like, this book just did that at the end of this book, like, holy crap. But also, I think Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney had some of the most like shocking plot twist in this book, so maybe I would go with this one. Also, that book Confessions that I read this summer, that had a lot of really great shocking plot twists in that one as well. So I don't know, that's a tough question. It is a tough one. Ooh, the next question is your favorite couple or OTP that you read this year. And this one is so hard because I read a few really great romance books this year, but the first one that comes to mind, it's gotta be Charlie and Dev from The Charm Offensive, because this is definitely my favorite romance book that I read this year, and I just absolutely adore both of them. And I love the discussion about each of their own mental health struggles in this book. I just think the fact that this book normalizes those things just makes this book extra special to me. And also the fact that they're both just like so soft and just like so cute. I just love this book. Everything about it makes me smile and I love them. Next question is the best written book that you've read this year. And I love this question because a really good writing style can really make a book amazing for me. Like, I love a good writing style, and one of the best written books that I read this year has got to be A History of Wild Places. This has some of the most gorgeous, like, haunting, dark, atmospheric, moody writing that I've read this year. Like, I absolutely loved the writing style in this, and after reading this, like, I just want to read everything that this author has ever written because I love the writing style in this book. But also the book A Dowry of Blood, that one is one that I went into with like literally no expectations, and the writing style is what really shocked me and like won me over and made me love this book. Like, this book ended up being a 5-star book for me, and it's not even a topic that I like super care about. Like, I don't care about reading about vampires that much, but like the writing style was gorgeous. It was just so beautiful. Like, one of the best written books that I've ever read. I was so impressed. The next question is, what is the book that you pushed the most people to read this year? And I feel like this is a tough question because I feel like you guys would probably be able to answer this better than I could, because I don't know what book I pushed the most people to read this year, but one that comes to mind is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, because I didn't really see a lot of people talking about this book before I read it. I actually read this book because of my friend Isabel over on Instagram. I saw her review of it. She gave it 5 stars, and then I immediately wanted to read it because of her review. But now, ever since I've talked about this, I'm seeing this book a lot more on YouTube, and I don't know if it's because of me or not. I mean, I know Kayla did end up reading this book because of me, which is super cool, but like generally, I don't know if it was me that convinced a lot of people to read this one, but I feel like it would have to be this one or even Stolen Tongues, but I feel weird saying this one too because I read this book because of your horror recommendations. So like, I did read this book because of you guys, so in a way, I'm not responsible for getting a lot of people to read this. you are, you know? But yeah, after I posted about this book, I just saw that it like really blew up with a lot of like the horror community on booktube, and a lot of people started reading this after I did, which I'm so excited about because this book is terrifying. And so yeah, I mean, I'm super glad if I encouraged you to pick up either of these two books this year. I feel like also Finlay Donovan is killing it. I've seen a lot of people saying they read this because of me, and I also had my mom read this book and then she lent it to her friend, and this book is getting passed around quite a bit within my family. So the next question is your favorite book cover from this year. And for this answer, I think I still want to go with Lizzie and Dante. I have since unhauled this book, so I don't have it anymore, but this book cover, oh my god, I was so tempted to just keep this book because of the cover, because I love the summer vibes on this cover. I love the yellow text, and I love like the beachy atmosphere. Oh my god, it's beautiful, it's stunning. But also another one of my favorite covers of this year is the dating plan. I love the colors on this cover. It's just so beautiful, so stunning. I guess I'm attracted to like yellow text on like a different colored background. I don't know, it just really looks good. It stands out in my brain. I love like there's like flowers on the sides, and then I love that there's like the San Francisco Bridge in the background. Like, this is just beautiful. Like, this is like a top tier romance cover right here. Like, I love this. I also do really love the bold like pink choice on Razorblade Tears, and like the way it kind of fades from this like orange ombre down into this like pink. Love it. I just think it's so beautiful, so stunning, and I love how bold the like Razorblade Tears looks. I don't know, I just think this is a really beautiful cover. The next question is your favorite adaptation that you've seen or read this year. And looking at all the books that I've read this year, I feel like I don't read very many book to movie adaptations, or at least like not that many this year, I guess. Well, one of my favorites that I just recently started watching is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. This one actually just went on HBO earlier this month. Like, it's still very new. There's only like 3 episodes up, I think. I've only seen the first 2. But like, so far, I don't know, I'm super impressed with this adaptation, and I think it's really true to the book and really well done. And this is a book that I just read last month, so it's still very fresh in my mind, and maybe that's why I'm even more appreciative that it seems like they're adapting it straight from the source material. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm excited though to see Project Hail Mary get adapted, because I know that one of my favorite actors, Ryan Gosling, is gonna play Ryland in Project Hail Mary. So this is definitely the one that I'm most excited to see the movie adaptation, and because I'm also wondering like how they're even going to adapt this, like what the heck. And then I also have heard that Finlay Donovan is getting an adaptation, but you know, it's like, it's crazy because I read so many 2021 releases that it's like a lot of these don't have adaptations yet, but some of them are getting adaptations. I did watch the Hating Game movie adaptation, which is, I did reread the Hating Game in January this year, so I guess I could say that one. But to be honest, the Hating Game adaptation, it was cute, but it wasn't like my favorite thing ever, so I don't think I would say that. Alright, so next question is, what book made you cry the most this year? So for this one, I have 2 answers. The main one being The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. This book had me bawling my eyes out, and it was kind of gross. It was a lot. I got it all on camera too. I actually made an entire reading vlog dedicated to just reading this book, and so I'll have it linked down below if you want to see me embarrass myself with the amount of times that I cried at the end of this book. But I was just like a sobbing mess. Like, I could barely even speak because I was crying so hard. So this one, for sure, this book made me feel all of the things. But then same with The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. This is one that I was not expecting for it to be as sad as it was. Like, it was a really sad and depressing book, and I think I was a little mad at the fact that it was as sad as it was, because I went into this kind of expecting like a light rom-com, kind of like the other books in the series are, but this book is very heavy, very sad, so you've been warned. It's very depressing, but it's a beautiful ass story. But this one made me cry a lot more than I was anticipating. Like, what even the heck? And then the next question is, which book made you laugh the most this year? And that's gotta be Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Like, there's a reason this book ended up being my favorite this year, and that's because of how much this book made me laugh. Like, I just absolutely loved this book. I love Ryland's character. I love the situations that he gets himself into in this book. I was just cracking up. And it's so rare for me to actually like laugh out loud over a scene in a book. Like, that almost never happens for me, because I think I really need the visuals to like find something funny. But this book, I just kept imagining this moment happening to him, and I was laughing so hard for like 5 minutes straight. Like, that literally never happens for me, but it did with this book, and I really appreciate that. Like, Andy Weir just has like the best sense of humor, and I was just cracking up the entire time. Alright, the next question is a new favorite author that you discovered this year. And that's gotta go to my girl, my queen, Jennifer McMahon. The Winter People was the first book that I read by her in January. And then this year I ended up reading 3 more of her books. I read The Drowning Kind, and then after that I read The Invited, and then The Night Sister. And this author is just, oh my god, I love the way that she writes horror books. Like, she writes them with so much heart, and I love the way that she always has like 2 timelines going. Like, one is in the past and one is in the present, and the way she's able to like weave together the timelines, it's just stunning. It's so good. I'm obsessed with her writing, and I'll read everything that she writes. I'm still working my way through her backlist, but I'm so excited too because she just announced a new book coming out next year that I'm just so excited about. And then I did want to mention that there were 2 authors that came out with second books this year that have solidified themselves as one of my favorite authors, like Hang the Moon. This author, Alexandria Bellafleur, she originally had Written in the Stars last year, which was like one of my favorites, and then this book is also one of my favorites, so she has pretty much launched herself into a spot of one of my favorite authors. And then same goes for Alex Michaelides. You know, he had The Silent Patient, which was one of my favorite thrillers ever. And then this book, The Maidens. I didn't love this one as much as The Silent Patient, but I still really enjoyed this. I still gave this one 5 stars. So like, both of these authors are some of my new favorites. Like, for sure, I will read anything they write. Alright, the next question says your favorite reread of the year. I'm still in the process of doing my rereading for the end of the year right now as we speak, but one of my favorite books that I reread at the end of the year is The Push. I read this for the first time in January this year, and then I actually just reread it a few weeks ago in the month of December, and this book is just so freaking good. I was just reminded about why I love this book, and it was fantastic. But also, I'm currently in the middle of rereading The Troop, and this is a wild experience to be rereading The Troop, so I've got to say this will probably end up being my favorite reread that I do this year. And then the last question, the last one, says the best nonfiction book that you read this year. And it's so crazy, you know, because I was looking through all of the nonfiction books that I read this year, and I think I only read like a handful of nonfiction. I didn't even participate in Nonfiction November, like that didn't even cross my mind this year. And so the nonfiction I had to choose from was a very small list, but I think the book Ace has got to be my favorite nonfiction that I read this year, especially as someone like me who identifies as asexual. I just really, really appreciated this book because this is the first nonfiction book that I've ever read about asexuality and what it means to be asexual, and there's just a lot of discussion about how an asexual person fits into society and how society views asexual people. There was just so much great discussion in this book, and it just meant a whole lot to me, and I just loved it so much. I really did enjoy the John Green nonfiction book that came out this year, which was surprising because John Green has never been like a fave author of mine, but I actually really did enjoy this one. I thought it was great. And also, I just wanted to mention this one, Somebody's Daughter. I have not yet read it, but I do want to read this, I think, before the end of the year, just because it's so short, and I do have the audiobook as well, so this one could also be a contender for my favorite nonfiction that I read this year. But yeah, that is it. That is all the things. I love this reading survey tag so much because I get to touch up on a bunch of things that I don't get to talk about in any other videos, and assigning different books all these superlatives is just so much fun. It's just so great. Yeah, I would love to know, you know, what was like the most read genre that you had this year? What was the book that made you laugh the most? What was the book that made you cry the most? Any of these questions, let me know down below. Let's have a discussion in the comments. And of course, thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye.